When my father raised his glass, the crystal caught the chandelier light and fractured it into 100 sharp reflections. To family, he said, the word landed wrong. We weren't in the old house anymore. This was a rented ballroom inside a restored hotel overlooking the river, chosen because my younger sister liked how it looked on social media. Outside, midnight was approaching. Fireworks were already testing the sky, distant pops like warning shots. Inside, the room hummed with champagne bubbles and perfume, and the sound of people pretending nothing fragile was about to break. The estate, my father continued, his voice smooth with rehearsal, will be transferred to Maribel. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment like this. Your like and share can carry this story to someone who needs hope, healing, or strength today. Red heart. Across the table, my sister, Maribel, tilted her head slightly, the way she did when she wanted to appear surprised without committing to it. Her smile came a half-second late, curated. My father turned his eyes to me. Elena, you're settled. You've always been self-sufficient. You don't need property weighing you down. There it was. The sentence I'd been trained to accept since childhood, dressed up as praise. Before I could respond, he added, almost casually, there's also the remaining balance on the professional licensing loan. $48,000. We'll need you to handle that before the title transfer completes. Consider it your contribution to your sister's fresh start. The room didn't spin. It went quiet. Not silent, quiet, like when your ears ring after impact. This was the moment the daughter died, and the architect woke up. I didn't shout. I didn't ask questions. I didn't beg for clarification like the old version of me would have. I finished my champagne, placed the empty flute onto a passing server's tray, and stood. My chair scraped the floor. No one stopped me. Outside, the December air cut cleanly through the silk of my dress. Cold has a way of sharpening thoughts. I welcomed it. I walked past valet, past the line of idling luxury cars, and sat alone in my own vehicle, hands resting loosely on the steering wheel. I didn't start the engine. I unlocked my phone. For years, my value to them hadn't been emotional. It had been functional. I was the fixer, the signer, the quiet problem eraser. I opened the account dashboard, the one I rarely looked at because acknowledging it meant admitting how deep I was in. First, the monthly payment toward the licensing program registered in my name, but used by my father to consult. $1,850 every 4 weeks. Canceled. Next, the revolving credit line I'd unknowingly co-signed when they'd needed temporary access for administrative fees. $27,000 outstanding. Frozen. Then, the professional insurance policy attached to my credentials. The one my sister had been billing under without ever qualifying. Revoked. It took less than 5 minutes to dismantle the scaffolding holding their public image upright. I waited for the guilt, the programmed nausea, the voice that always told me I was selfish for wanting peace. Nothing came. Instead, memories surfaced. Not fond ones, transactional ones. The time my mother cried because a regulatory fine threatened my father's consulting license. I'd paid it. No receipt. No acknowledgement. The short-term enrollment fee when Maribel decided she was going to pivot careers and needed access to coursework registered under my professional ID. I'd agreed, assuming it was temporary. The signature they'd practiced forging. So often they forgot it wasn't theirs. I hadn't been generous. I'd been useful. And usefulness, I realized, was not love. It was extraction. I started the car. My phone buzzed before I left the parking lot. A message from my mother. Don't embarrass us. Come back inside. Then Maribel. You're overreacting. This isn't about you. Then my father, voice message. I didn't play it. I knew the tone already. Controlled disappointment wrapped in authority. I drove home anyway. At a red light, I saw Maribel's face appear on my screen. She'd posted already. Soft lighting. Eyes glossy but not red. Caption vague enough to invite projection. When the people closest to you resent your growth. The likes climbed quickly. I didn't feel angry. I felt awake. At home, I locked the door, changed into sweatpants, and sat on the floor with my back against the couch. The adrenaline faded, leaving clarity behind. They didn't see me as a person who could be hurt. They saw me as a system they could reroute. When my phone buzzed again, I didn't answer. I opened settings instead. Blocked my father. Blocked my mother. Blocked my sister. Then the extended family members who would soon become messengers. Silence fell, not the heavy kind, the clean kind. I slept that night without dreaming. The fallout began the next morning. Emails from credentialing boards. Notifications about access revocations. A polite but firm inquiry about unauthorized billing activity tied to my professional ID. I forwarded everything to a folder labeled documentation. If this was going to become a war, I would not fight it emotionally. I would fight it structurally. By noon, my father had found another number to call from. "Elena," he said when I finally answered, his voice clipped. "You've made a serious mistake." I corrected an ongoing one. I replied, "You're punishing your sister." "No," I said, "I'm withdrawing consent. You don't get to rewrite family agreements." "I do when they were never mutual." Silence stretched. "You've always been dramatic," he finally said. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "No," I said softly. "I've been compliant. You're just noticing the difference." I hung up. That night, fireworks from a delayed celebration echoed through the city. I watched them from my balcony alone, wrapped in a blanket, something steady forming where fear used to live. They still believed I would fold. They still believed I needed their approval more than oxygen. They were wrong, and they were about to learn how expensive that assumption really was. 2 years passed without a word, not a text, not a holiday guilt bomb, not a fake emergency designed to pull me back into orbit. Silence, I learned, isn't empty, it's protective. In those 2 years, my life recalibrated itself. Without the constant drain of other people's chaos, things stabilized quickly. I moved cities, changed firms, rebuilt my professional standing from the inside out instead of propping others up from underneath. I bought a townhouse near the edge of the city, brick exterior, narrow windows, small private courtyard. It wasn't flashy. It was intentional. Every lock was mine. Every bill was in my name. No ghost access. No temporary arrangements. I told myself I was healed. Then, on a gray Tuesday afternoon in late October, someone rang the doorbell. Not the quick tap of a delivery driver. Not a neighbor. This was slow, deliberate, expectant. My body reacted before my brain did. A tightening in my throat, a cold wave across my shoulders. I walked to the door and checked the camera feed. There they were. My parents stood on the step, closer together than they'd ever willingly been. My father's coat was creased, his collar damp. My mother's hair, once immaculately styled, was frizzed by mist. And between them, slightly behind, was Maribel. She was dragging a large hard-shell suitcase with a broken wheel, the kind meant for airports, not doorsteps. I didn't open the door. I stood there, watching as memory tried to claw its way back into my chest. My father knocked again, harder this time. "Elena," he called, "we know you're home." I unlocked the door, but I didn't step back. I filled the frame, one hand still on the handle. "What do you want?" Relief washed over my mother's face too quickly. She reached forward instinctively, as if to touch my arm. "We just need a place to stay," she said. Briefly. Maribel didn't look up. My father cleared his throat. "There's been an issue with the house." "The one you transferred to Maribel?" I asked. "Yes," he said too fast. "Renovations." I waited. He didn't elaborate. I looked at Maribel. Her jaw was clenched. Her phone screen lit up and went dark again in her palm. "Renovations," I repeated. "In October, during a credit freeze. Interesting timing." My mother's voice sharpened. "Do you have to interrogate us on the doorstep? It's cold." I stepped aside just enough to let them in, then closed the door behind them. Not out of kindness, out of curiosity. Inside, they stood awkwardly in the entryway, water dripping onto the mat. My mother glanced around, taking in the clean lines, the artwork, the absence of clutter. "You've done well," she said. It sounded like a concession. "Yes," I replied. "I have." I didn't offer them coats, or tea, or a place to sit. So I said, "Tell me what actually happened." My father sighed, the sound heavy with practiced disappointment. "We ran into some temporary liquidity problems." "Translation, collapse. How temporary?" He didn't answer. I turned to Maribel. "How much?" Her shoulders tensed. It wasn't supposed to fail. "What?" "The program," she muttered. "The mentorship network. Everyone said it was vetted." I closed my eyes briefly. Not surprise. Confirmation. "You took out another loan," I said, opening them again. "Didn't you?" My father's mouth tightened. "Against the house," I continued. "Second lien. High interest." My mother gasped softly, as if hearing it for the first time. "You told me it was an advance," she whispered to him. He snapped back. "I was trying to protect you." I stepped closer to the console table and opened a folder I'd left there intentionally. "I had a feeling you'd show up eventually," I said, sliding documents across the surface. I did some checking. Their eyes followed the movement. "The house," I continued, "was seized by the lender 3 weeks ago. Auctioned last Friday. You were evicted yesterday morning." Silence. Maribel finally looked up. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from exhaustion. "You can't let us stay here," my mother whispered. I studied them. Not emotionally. Clinically. 3 adults. One shared pattern. Dependency disguised as family. "You tried to use my credentials again," I said quietly. My father stiffened. "A credit application. 2 months ago. My name. My professional ID. I was desperate," he said. "I thought if I could just stabilize things." "You thought you could sacrifice me," I corrected. He stood, suddenly anger flashing through the shame. "You have more than enough. We raised you. You extracted from me," I said. "There's a difference." My mother started crying, then the soft theatrical sobs I'd grown up responding to. "Where are we supposed to go?" she asked. I considered the question carefully. "I'll help," I said at last. Hope flared instantly. "Too fast, but not the way you think." I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up my keys. "I'm leaving for a work assignment," I said. "Extended. International." That part was a lie. "I need someone to occupy the house while I'm gone. Keep it secure. No rent. 6 months. My father's posture changed immediately. Relief poured into his face, like color returning to a photograph. "You see," he said to my mother, "I told you." Maribel's eyes moved across the space now, with calculation. "Ownership. When can we move in?" she asked. "Tomorrow," I said. "Bring only essentials." They agreed too quickly. They always did when they thought they were being rescued. After they left, I locked the door and leaned against it, breathing steadily. I wasn't shaking. I was planning. That night, I logged into my real estate account and contacted an agent I trusted. I didn't list under my name. I listed under an entity. Turnkey. Immediate possession. I wasn't going anywhere. I was liquidating. Over the next 10 days, I moved quietly. My personal items were boxed and removed while they were out job searching. My documents, heirlooms, anything irreplaceable, gone. They settled in like parasites in a warm host, never questioning why I wasn't around. On day 11, I signed the digital closing papers from a hotel room across town. Sale price, $1,180,000. On day 14, the new owners scheduled their walkthrough. I turned my phone back on. It rang instantly. "Elena," my mother screamed. "There are strangers here. They say they own the house." "Yes," I said calmly. "They do." "What are you talking about?" my father shouted in the background. "I sold it," I said, 2 weeks ago. Maribel started crying then. Real crying this time. "You said 6 months," my mother sobbed. "And you said I didn't need an inheritance," I replied. "Plans change." "You can't do this," my father roared. "We're your family." "No," I said softly. "You were my liability." I hung up, blocked the number, and for the second time in my life, I chose myself without apology. The silence that followed wasn't immediate. For 3 days, my phone vibrated itself into exhaustion. Unknown numbers, blocked IDs, frantic voicemails that shifted tone hour by hour. Rage. Bargaining. Threats dressed as legal promises. Pleas disguised as parental authority. I didn't listen to a single one. I didn't need to. I already knew the script. On the 4th day, the noise stopped. Not because they'd found peace, because they'd run out of leverage. That's the thing about people who live by extraction. Once the source is sealed, they have nothing left to negotiate with. No apology strong enough. No threat credible enough. I was sitting in my new place when it finally hit me, not emotionally, but physically. I could breathe. The house I'd bought under the LLC was smaller than the townhouse. Fewer windows. Less light. But every inch of it was mine. Earned without compromise. I unpacked slowly, intentionally. No rushing to make it presentable for anyone else's approval. The first legal letter arrived a week later. My father's name was typed in bold across the top, followed by a law firm I recognized immediately, the kind that accepts clients based on confidence, not solvency. The accusation was laughable. Fraud, misrepresentation, emotional distress. I forwarded the letter to my attorney without comment. 2 days later, she called me. "They don't have a case," she said, "and they can't afford to pursue one." I smiled for the first time in days. The second letter never came. What did come instead was visibility. Maribel posted again, long threads this time, screenshots without context, vague claims about betrayal and cruelty. Her audience responded the way audiences always do when fed a partial narrative. "You're so strong. Family can be toxic. You didn't deserve this." None of them knew the truth, but I didn't feel the urge to correct them. Silence, I'd learned, was a boundary too. 2 months passed, then a third. Eventually, curiosity replaced fear. I did a quiet check-in, not through family, but through public records and mutual acquaintances. My parents were renting now, a modest apartment far from the neighborhoods they used to boast about. My father's consulting license had been officially suspended. Audits tend to follow identity misuse. My mother had taken a part-time job at a retail store. Maribel bounced between projects. None of them lasted. There was no dramatic crash, no viral exposure, no cinematic justice, just consequences. One evening, as I was watering the small garden behind my new place, a memory surfaced unexpectedly. I was 9 years old, standing in the kitchen, holding a report card with straight A's. My father had glanced at it briefly before saying, "Good, that's expected." That moment had shaped me more than I realized. I grew up believing excellence was the rent I paid for belonging. It took me decades to understand that love you have to earn on a payment plan isn't love. It's a subscription with hidden fees. I never heard from them again, directly. Once I thought I saw my mother across a grocery store aisle. Our eyes met for a split second before she looked away. Not in anger, in recognition. She finally saw me, not as a resource, not as a fallback, but as someone she no longer had access to. And that was enough. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I wish I'd been kinder, softer, more forgiving. I don't, because kindness without boundaries is just self-erasure. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped financing my own disappearance. The hardest truth I've learned is this: you don't lose people when you set limits. You lose illusions. And sometimes what feels like abandonment is actually the first moment of self-respect. I wasn't born to be useful. I was born to be whole. And that changed everything. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been made to feel valuable only when you were providing, share where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Your presence here matters more than your utility ever did. And if you're rebuilding quietly without applause, know this: the life you protect in silence will outlast the one you sacrificed for approval.